Sometimes a single event can put the entire world on edge. And in early April of 2026, that's exactly what happened. It all centered on one American pilot, shot down all alone in the mountains of Iran, who suddenly became the flashpoint in a war that was already spiraling out of control. His fate and the incredible mission to get him back pushed two global powers right to the very brink. So let's get into the story of those 48 hours and the much, much bigger war they represent. And then, on April 5th, this message flashed across the globe. Just 3 words from President Trump: "We got him." It was this huge, triumphant end to a completely nail-biting 48-hour saga. We're talking covert ops, a serious gunfight, and a whole other war being fought with disinformation online. This wasn't just a rescue mission. It was a perfect snapshot of a much larger, way more complicated conflict. All right, so to really get what happened here, we've got to start with the rescue itself. We need to break down the actual high-stakes military operation, a mission that people are already calling one of the most daring in recent memory. So let's just walk through the timeline. It kicks off on April 3rd. An F-15E Strike Eagle with a crew of 2 gets shot down. Now, the pilot is pulled out pretty fast, within hours, but the second crew member, the weapons systems officer, he's now missing in action, deep behind enemy lines. For almost 2 full days, 2 agonizing days, he is on the run, dodging Iranian search parties in what President Trump called the treacherous mountains of Iran. It's a total race against time, right? A classic scenario to get him out before he's captured or worse. Okay, now this is where you start to see the sheer scale of this thing. This wasn't just sending in a helicopter and hoping for the best. No way. They had MQ-9 Reaper drones flying Overwatch. And get this, they were reportedly taking out any threat that got within 3 kilometers of the downed airmen. You've got special ops planes, you've got fighter jets swarming the skies. But look at that last point, because it's absolutely fascinating. A CIA-led deception campaign. Yeah. Before the boots even hit the ground for the rescue, the CIA was busy spreading fake intel inside Iran, telling them the pilot had already been found. It was all about sowing confusion to buy the real rescue team the time they desperately needed. Just brilliant. And this really drives home just how dangerous this whole thing was. The final act of this rescue wasn't some quiet, sneaky extraction in the middle of the night. U.S. officials later confirmed that getting the pilot out involved a heavy firefight with Iranian forces on the ground. This was a direct, boots-on-the-ground, bullets flying kind of fight to pull their guy out of there. But here's the thing. That physical battle on the ground, that was only half the story. At the exact same time, a completely different kind of war was being fought online. This was a battle for the narrative, a fight waged with pictures, with claims, and with pure, unfiltered disinformation. So this slide really lays out the 2 competing realities that were unfolding. On one side, you had the claim social media just got flooded with all these images that supposedly showed a captured American pilot being interrogated. It looked real. But on the other side, you have the fact, and this is crucial, it was confirmed by both U.S. and Iranian officials. No pilot was ever captured. It was total fiction, but man, it was spreading like wildfire. The fact-checkers over at PR Nigeria took a hard look at these viral images, and they basically called it textbook information warfare. The whole point of these pictures wasn't to show what was really happening. Not at all. The goal was to create a psychological effect, to make the U.S. look bad, to project this image of Iranian strength, whether it was true or not. So here's the breakdown of how that whole fiction just fell apart. The fake story went absolutely viral across X, Telegram, WhatsApp, everywhere. Iranian state media even poured fuel on the fire by offering a cash reward for the pilot. But when the fact-checkers started comparing notes, looking at official statements, checking major news outlets, the whole story just collapsed. And the final nail in the coffin, that most popular image, the one everyone was sharing, it was almost certainly a fake, probably generated by AI. The verdict was crystal clear. False. Now, it's so important to understand that this crazy rescue and the info war that surrounded it, they weren't just happening in a bubble. They were one small, intense chapter in a much larger, ongoing war called Operation Epic Fury. Operation Epic Fury is the strategic backdrop for everything we've been talking about. It was launched in late February 2026, a joint U.S.-Israeli campaign with 4 incredibly clear and honestly massive goals. 1. Stop Iran's nuclear program. 2. Take out their missile sites. 3. Weaken their proxy networks like Hezbollah. And 4. Essentially just wipe out their entire navy. These are huge, ambitious objectives. And the cost of this operation, it has been absolutely staggering. I mean, just look at these numbers. This visualizes the human toll just over a month into the fighting. Over 1,900 killed in Iran, and because of the proxy fighting, you see over 1,400 killed in Lebanon. Compare that to 32 soldiers killed for the US and Israel. It's just a stark, devastating contrast that really highlights the impact on the region.
Okay, so with all that as context, let's zoom out one last time. Let's look at why this regional war, this conflict between the US, Israel, and Iran, had the rest of the planet holding its breath. Because the stakes were, and still are, absolutely immense.
So to really get the global risks, you have to understand this concept, asymmetric warfare. It's pretty straightforward. Iran knows it can't go toe-to-toe with the US military, right? You can't match them fighter jet for fighter jet. So what do? Well, you use other tactics. You use cheap, effective drones. You sponsor allied militias all over the Middle East. The whole point is to make the fight incredibly costly and messy for a superpower, to bleed them of resources and political will. It's not about winning a conventional battle. It's about making the war unwinnable for the other side.
And this strategy, this asymmetric approach, it creates three huge global risks. First, if the Iranian regime actually collapses, you could see a humanitarian catastrophe, a massive refugee crisis, and the whole country fracturing into warring states. Second, think about the big picture. With America's attention and military hardware all bogged down in Iran, it gets distracted. It weakens its ability to support Ukraine or to deter China in the Pacific. And third, and this is the one that could hit all of us in the wallet, any disruption to the Strait of Hormuz, which is a critical choke point for global oil, could trigger a massive economic shock and send energy prices through the roof for everybody.
And if all of that wasn't volatile enough, you have to add this into the mix, a huge leadership change inside Iran. The supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, was killed early in the conflict. And who replaced him? His son, Mujtaba Khamenei. And he is seen as an even bigger hardliner, super closely tied to the Revolutionary Guard. His rise doesn't signal a country looking for an off-ramp. It suggests Iran is doubling down, getting even more aggressive.
Which brings us to this really powerful, kind of haunting question, famously asked by General David Petraeus way back during the Iraq War. Tell me how this ends. It's the central, terrifying, unresolved question of this whole conflict. With so many variables, so many things that could go wrong, what does a good outcome even look like? What's the end game? And back in early 2026, it felt like nobody, absolutely nobody, had an answer.
And so that leaves us with this one last thought to chew on. That dramatic pilot rescue, it showed us a new kind of battlefield. It's one that's fought not just with special forces and fighter jets, but with AI-generated pictures and viral propaganda. So the real question for all of us now is, in this new age of warfare, when the fight is happening with drones and disinformation, what does victory even look like anymore?